But I urge you not to do what's written on the slides, run away. I urge you to wait for a while and give me the chance to present the keynote. You are all survivors. Actually, not you personally are survivors, but your predecessors. In ancient times, they survived the tiger. And what has that to do with software architecture? Frankly, close to nothing. But nevertheless, I took that topic for the keynote. Even in today's times, sometimes it's a good idea to run away. If you have something else to do, we do a too long don't read summary of what I'm going to talk about. Your brain, probably not yours personally, but the statistical average brain sometimes takes very crazy decisions and does very strange things. And your perception, so your vision, your things you hear, things you feel, sometimes trick you. And that might be dangerous. If you already know that, you are free to leave, but I would be very happy if at least a few of you would stay. Let's start with introducing two people I personally don't know. Well, I like the video, so I brought you a video.
Hi, I'm Richard. This is Sarah, and we're going to perform the amazing colour-changing card trick with this blue-backed deck of cards. Now, the idea is very simple. I'm just going to spread the cards in front of Sarah and ask her to push any card towards the camera.
Right, okay, let's see. I'm going to go for this card here.
Okay. Now, Sarah could have selected any card at all from the deck, but she selected the card which is now face down on the table. And what I'm going to ask her to do is show us which card she selected.
So the card that I chose was in fact the 3 of diamonds.
The 3 of diamonds, okay, excellent choice. That card goes back into the deck. Now I'm just going to spread the cards face up on the table. Do a little click of the fingers, and you'll see that Sarah's card here has now got a blue back. Not particularly surprising. What's slightly more surprising is all of the other cards have got red backs. And that is the amazing colour-changing card trick.
So be honest with me, how many did you spot? Who spotted none? All right, welcome. My name is Gernot. Mirko already introduced me, and I'm a nerd. So I like programming stuff, I like computer stuff, I like software architecture, and I have no idea about psychology, neuroscience, and so on. But that's what I try to talk about. So as you all know, when you have to work on a topic you don't know, you should do some research. So I did research, and I found really nice books, and I found scientific papers. So everything I tell you today is based on science. So it's not invented, so I didn't make up any stories. Just if you have doubts, then I can give you sources. Let's talk about your brain. Your brain consists mostly of fat, which in everyday language is a bit negatively prejudiced, but it's about 1.5 kilo. Most of it is fat. It consists of a very, very, very large number of cells, neurons. And all these neurons, or this very large number of neurons, all these neurons are connected to other neurons. And every neuron is connected to thousands of other neurons, making it a very, very large graph, actually, consisting of fat and some more. This machine in your head, this bunch of fat in your head, consumes a fairly large amount of all the energy your body requires. So if you stand up and consider the small head and the rest of the body, the brain requires about 20% of the average energy you use every day. So it's burning fuel. That's interesting because in very, very ancient times, there wasn't enough food available for everybody. So acquiring food was a difficult task. I'm sure you all know that. Today it's quite easy. You go to the buffet and take some more croissant or whatever, get some energy. Now, during evolution, during some million years of evolution, our brain therefore was optimized for energy consumption, for energy efficiency. So because in former times there wasn't actually enough energy available, the brain had to find means to come up with or to use as little energy as possible. So the energy in your brain, or actually your brain, has something like a sleep mode. Like your phone has to conserve energy, the screen is made black so it doesn't consume energy, and your brain has something very similar since millions of years. And you cannot work against this million of years evolution. For this energy efficiency, the brain was optimized for exactly two things. And exactly those two. One of this is survival, and the other is reproduction, and nothing else. And if you consider this very small list of things your brain is optimized to perform, there is nothing about software in there. So we are doing actually things our brain is not optimized for, and still we can do quite fine, but that's important to consider. Now, let me introduce a guy which I personally don't know either. I never got the chance to meet him. He died a couple of months ago. It's not very long time. Daniel Kahneman. And Daniel has received some kind of, it's not actually the Nobel Prize, but something similar for his research on the brain. And he's got some lifetime achievement awards, a Nobel Memorial Prize. He was a president of some important societies and so on and so on. He has written a book called Thinking Fast, Thinking Slow. Anybody read the book or read a summary? Ah, nice. I tried. The book is too thick for me, so I read a summary. A summary of the book is that our brain works in two modes. One of those is the sleep mode, and the other is the energy-intensive mode. The sleep mode of the brain requires very, very little energy to work. This is the intuition. So things you do quite fast from, sometimes we say, oh, I did it with a gut feeling, I decided. This is system one, and it's extremely fast. The other mode of operation of our brain is the deliberate or really thinking hard about things mode, which takes a lot longer because all these millions, billions of neurons in your brain have to do some work. That's why the current LLM providers build new computer centers every day, and they build power plants every day to get the energy for their artificial brains created. Now, let's look at some examples. For this simple task of multiplying small numbers, not big numbers, small numbers, nobody of you needs to really calculate because your intuition can give the answer. So you can do all tasks like that on something like the autopilot or low energy sleep mode in your brain. That's what we learned in evolution, to take very fast decisions of simple tasks. If there was a tiger, it was very obvious you had to run away. And if you stood between two trees, like I do here, and I heard the tiger approaching, and I started thinking and making a short list of trees, which one to climb on, I would have been eaten. Or my predecessors would have been eaten. So they had no time to think long about what to do. So they had to react instinctively. And that's what all your brains, not yours, but your predecessors' brains, what they learned during evolution, to decide quickly on certain tasks, on life-threatening tasks, for example. I'm working in IT projects, none of that is life-threatening, and I see people decide like that every day. And I see them miscalculate. So, if you want to come up with a birthday present for your loved ones, it probably is a great idea to think about that. I once bought something for my wife, and she told me, "Oh, you have given me that last time already." Don't tell her. Now, within your brain, you have a very, very small component called the thalamus that helps you in fast decisions. Your sensory input, your eyes, your ears, your haptic system, your nerves, your nose, your olfactory system, the tongue, they all provide continuous input. Let's say that again, continuous input. So your brain receives data on streams, on parallel streams all the time. And it's a lot of data because even your visual system has a very, very high resolution and sends input to your brain all the time. When you close your eyes, it's just input from the ears and the nerves and whatever, but it's a lot of input, and no brain can handle all this input in parallel. So evolution invented a filter system. You all know the term filter. So the filter system, the thalamus, filters input. It takes some of the input that arrives, and the thalamus decides, oh, that doesn't seem to be important, and just leaves it out. So your brain actually only receives the input the thalamus considers important. It's not you that considers the input important, but your thalamus. And you cannot deliberately tell the thalamus, oh, I think tigers are not important, but sheep are important. It doesn't work that way. So we have a problem, the thalamus, that's deeply embedded in our brain, and we cannot consciously trigger that thalamus. That sounds really bad for software development and for other activities too. Now, in very, very many situations, this thalamus does a pretty good job. We are good in reflective behavior, that is sleep mode behavior without thinking actively. And I describe a situation you probably have experienced yourself. After work, you walk to the parking lot, you open your car, you sit behind the steering wheel, and you start driving home. You drive home, you have complex traffic situations with traffic lights, other participants in the traffic, pedestrians, bicyclists, and whatever. You arrive at home, and you cannot remember anything. How did I come here? Welcome thalamus. Welcome reflexes. Your reflective system drove you home, and you didn't actively think about anything. Probably you are a better driver than I am, but I experience this situation from time to time. So our brain can handle difficult, complex situations without actively thinking and leaving it to the reflexes. Anybody understands that? Anybody had experienced that? Okay. Now, that doesn't work in all cases, and the core of my talk today is about quite bad things happening in the brain. In this system 2, system 1 brain, and these bad things are called cognitive bias. There are quite a number of those. Cognitive bias are predictable errors. Actually, I have no idea what's going on in your brain personally, but cognitive bias are researched by neuroscientists and psychologists in statistical studies. Studies that cover lots and lots of people, and doing statistics over those. So these cognitive bias cannot predict the personal behavior of a single person, but can predict the behavior of a group of people. On average. So probably you are better off than others, but you can beat statistics. you can try, but you won't manage. And if you can beat statistics, your team cannot beat statistics. Let's start with the selective attention. You have seen the video. And many of you admitted, oh, you didn't see the color change. That's selective attention. It was very obvious that this guy took over a new t-shirt with a different color. And you didn't recognize that because your thalamus decided, oh, that's not important in that case. You were tricked, actually, by him calling that a card trick. But many of you failed in this selective attention test. And that's statistical average. I have another example.
Michael, take the cards.
Okay.
You can also take a step forward just so the camera can see it better. Look through the cards, pull one out. Don't laugh. No laughing. I won't look. Got it?
Okay. All right. I got one.
Okay. I'm going to turn around again. When I do, the card is going to go back in the deck. Okay. Card in the deck. Okay? Wait till I get turned around. I don't want to see.
Okay.
Got it?
All right.
Now, I'm going to make the card jump to the top of the deck.
Okay.
But to make it hard, put one hand flat, the other hand flat,
right.
So you would feel it, you'd see it, you'd feel it, okay? No laughing. You're going to feel it go up around your chest, back down to the arm. It's going to happen just like that on the count of 3. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Open up, look. Look at the top card. Do we get it?
Yeah, that's it.
Did you notice anything weird? Yeah, I got your tie. And also, here's your glasses. Take your glasses.
Oh, man.
Yeah. And also your wallet. I got it. Here, let me just put it in your pocket for you. I got it there. And last thing, there's your watch.
Oh, man.
Yep. And your tie. Sorry about that. I'm being a jerk at this point. All right, it was good to me. I'll take my cards back from you.
You can have these.
Yeah, and here's your wallet one more time. I'm sorry. All right, see you guys. Here, send me the video. Find me on Facebook. Send me the video.
Oh man, this guy is awesome. I watched him like about a dozen times on Facebook. He's great.
Welcome to selective attention. You might believe this could never happen to you, but in average, you are susceptible to this kind of not feeling things, not visualizing, not noticing things. In the comments on this video, or in the explanation of this video, it turns out this guy's a policeman. So this guy's a policeman. So I would expect that policemen are people really sensible to situations. And he probably was, but he was strict. And on average, you can beat such things. Now, the most famous experiment in this case, and I won't show the complete video, is from the 90s, from Daniel Simmons. He did an experiment showing people a basketball game and making them count the number of times the ball is passed between players.
This is a test of selective attention. Count how many times the players wearing white pass the basketball.
So you have probably seen this video before. You are now primed. You see something very strange happening in the video. And actually, this video has some kind of family story. My wife had an educational day from her company on first aid, because she's a first aid instructor in her company, and she came back after that education day and sat on the table and was really, she was really down. She was very sad, and she said, "Oh, I didn't see the gorilla." And I had no idea what she was talking about. And my wife never misses anything. If my t-shirt is crumbled, if I wear my pyjama from left to right or anything, my wife will notice. If I'm not shaved evenly, my wife will notice. And even my wife told me I didn't see the gorilla. And I did research, and I could tell her, 46% of people don't see the gorilla. That's about half of the population don't see the gorilla in the video. Half of the population. So we can count 1, 2, 1, 2. And probably you all have seen the gorilla by now, because that's the third video on selective attention. And these psychologists, Simmons and his colleague, they repeated this test with different age groups, older people, younger people, with women and men, with just women, in different cultures, in Africa, in Asia, in Europe, in America. Everywhere around the world, it's 46% of people missing the gorilla. So we shouldn't assume that we will see everything or we will notice everything that happens in our environment. You can average that you will miss half of the interesting things happen in the environment. Statistically, probably today is a good day and you notice nearly everything, but probably today is a very bad day and you see nothing. And that's how we decide in IT projects. Even in IT projects, we miss things. Statistically, probably your team is better than average. Now, selective attention is not the only thing that will go wrong. Another one is the Dunning-Kruger effect, or overconfidence. People who have no idea what they are talking about have very high confidence in that they know what they are talking about. This overconfidence, okay, I don't know why I have this slide with me, but I have one kind of tragic example of overconfidence. You probably remember that we have a really huge financial crisis around 2008. It's a long time ago, but it's still in the 2000s. And from all countries that suffered financial crisis, Iceland was hit most in relation to the wealth of the overall economy. So it was really, really bad in Iceland. And I don't know David Otzen myself, and I probably don't want to meet him, but he became quite famous worldwide when Time magazine published an article on the 25 people to blame for the financial crisis. And you don't want to be contained in this list. There are other lists in which I want to be contained, iSAQB, experts, whatever. This is a nice list, but this is a not to be on list. And David Otzen is leading. And this guy, who took as a prime minister, as a responsible for some of Iceland's finances, took very, very bad decisions, making himself rich and the others quite poor. A few years later, he bidded for presidency. And he told the public, my experience, which is considerable, could go well with this office. Hey, you sucker, you are responsible for me losing all my money, and you want to become president because you are confident that you have experience. Yes, you have experience in ruining a country. Why is this guy confident that he can lead a country? That's complete crazy. And that's an example of Dunning-Kruger overconfidence. He really has no idea how to lead a country, and nevertheless, now you say, oh, these Icelanders and these finance guys that are all crazy and you have no metrics to measure. Researchers in psychology did experiments with chess players. Anybody of you is a chess player and has an ELO score? Chess players are rated numerically and they get a score, which is a number from 1 to 2,800, whatever. And it's calculated by the number of wins and losses against other players with these numbers. So when you play a lot, these numbers adjust, and that's your ELO rating. And this is a number that's calculated worldwide in chess players. And these psychologists ask chess players about their ELO ratings. Are you happy with your rating? And even chess players said, no, actually, my score should be higher than it actually is. Might be because you didn't play a lot or you played only bad players, so your score didn't improve. So these psychologists asked these chess players a year later. They were still bad players, but they still were overconfident. What I want to say is that even in domains where the skill can be measured with numbers, people are overconfident, despite the fact that these chess players know about the numbers, which I think is completely crazy. So if you ask anybody about their skills in software, which cannot be measured in numbers, they might be overconfident. And if you think this Dunning-Kruger a bit further, welcome to the Peter Principle. One of my best friends is named Peter, and he doesn't like the Peter Principle, because the Peter Principle says that if you advance in your career, you will probably advance to a level which you are not competent in. So you will fail. Have you ever encountered examples of the Peter Principle in your management? No, never. Actually, I did. I quit my last job in 2000 to become a fellow at InnoQ and partially self-employed, whatever. And one of the reasons I quit in former times was because I had known a guy at the top of this staircase. But yeah. Another one of these very bad things happening in your brain is the confirmation bias. Probably the worst that makes our life as software developers and architects so difficult is the confirmation bias. We tend to believe, or we tend to prefer information that confirms with our preconceptions. So if you like MongoDB as a database, you will read more on the successes of MongoDB as a database and not read the articles describing why it doesn't work. I have no idea about MongoDB, and I think I more like it than dislike it, but just as an example. And this bias, this confirmation bias, is really bad in technical discussions in your team. If one of your guys is probably biased, then you probably don't like other arguments. Which brings us to another cognitive bias, the so-called dissonance reduction. So if you encounter anything that doesn't fit your preconception, in German, may I use a German word? It's called Schönreden. So you invent probably things that make your conception become true again. This dissonance reduction makes you confirm your existing views. So it hinders you from thinking from a completely different part about the same story. This is used by all these social media algorithms to show you only things you want to see. Because they want, these social media guys, they profit if you remain longer on their platforms, because then they can show you more ads, so they earn more money. So what they do is, they show you videos that confirms your already existing beliefs, because you will like those videos more, or this images more than the others, and it reduces your mental friction. That's a very bad thing to do, because in science, it's always a good idea to consider a problem from a completely different viewpoint, to hear completely different opinions. in the iSAQB working group for the foundation level, which I'm leading together with Alexander, we try to discuss technical topics from different viewpoints. And I sometimes thought, oh, this guy's a pain in the ass, because he comes with a different argument and he sees things from a different perspectives. But if you really do that, if you really try to consider other opinions, it will open up your mind and sometimes situation becomes better. So it's very good to have a pain in the ass in your team. So don't throw them out, but invite them. Although in the first few minutes it might be difficult. You probably know what I'm talking about. Now, if you want your ideas to be voted for in a technical discussion, just put yourself on top of the agenda. Because people tend to vote for the first of many choices. It's completely stupid, because we should wait for the end, but we don't do that. So this is the primacy effect. People tend to prefer the first one. So if you're second, you're lost. Statistically, you're lost. There is this, similar to this primacy effect, a thing called anchoring. So if you consider 30K for the used car as expensive, then your favorite car vendor just needs to show you, oh, it has been reduced. It's still the same price, but your brain, probably not yours, but the statistical average brain thinks, oh, this is a good idea, because it's reduced. Have you ever suffered from the anchoring effect? When you go with your loved ones, buy some new jacket, trousers, shoes, whatever, the vendors will show you very expensive shoes first, and then the shoes they want to sell you seem affordable. I've shown you only a few of the cognitive biases. There is a nice write-up of cognitive bias in software development and what they mean for software development. Actually, there are a few more. So if you are willing to read a bit more, there is 50. And if you have a lot of time, the psychology guys collected even more, 180 something. And it's a very, very frustrating topic, because it shows you that even if you are confident, overconfident, that your personal brain is working quite nicely, this reading about cognitive bias shows you, oh, it's not working nicely in all cases. There are so many edge cases where our brains get tricked, whatever. Now, to take something constructive from this frustrating topic, there are ways to at least manipulate or modify our brain so that it overcomes a few of those. And one of the things you can do is to train your thalamus. We have a town in Germany, Münster, where many people ride bikes. And on average, there are less bike accidents in Münster than in other cities, although there is much more bike traffic in Münster. So people can think, oh, how does that happen? Yeah, that's because the car drivers in Münster are primed. They know their thalamus expect cycle drivers to be on the roads. And if I drive in Cologne or in Berlin, where cycling is close to suicide, car drivers are not as primed as in Münster. It's not that Münster people are better people than others. Probably they are, but I don't know. But they are primed. So they get constantly informed about drivers. They have road signs with cycle drivers on it. You can do that in your own working practice in the form of bringing important topics into focus. Let's just talk about these topics. And actually this brain priming, this selective attention overcoming is one of the reasons why domain-driven design is working as well as it does. Because it brings this highly important topic of our domain into focus. Because it makes people actively talk about the domain and not just talk about MongoDB and Kotlin and whatever. So it brings a specific topic into focus, making our thalamus, which you otherwise cannot control, consider domain as important, so leaving input your sensory system receives into your brain. You can do that with other topics too. That's why I'm a great fan of this actively discussing quality requirements for software, like actively discussing what kind of performance do we need, what kind of maintainability, security, whatever, actively discussing alone. You don't need to come to a conclusion. Just discussing the subject makes things better because your thalamus will leave more input, will allow more input to get into your conscious brain. It's very easy to do, very simple to do. Discuss these important topics. You as architect, select some important topics in the retrospective for every sprint, take up one of those, discuss it with your team, and things will be better than before. If you want to know more about this fascinating subject of brain quirks and cognitive bias and so on, this is one of the most fascinating books I've read all my life, and I'm both old and read a lot, and I've read a lot of books, sorry. The next best one is Think Again. Great stuff. Short books, you can read that in parallel. Christmas is coming. So on your wish list, I suggest at least one of these. There are some more, you will find them in the slides. Thank you so much for listening, and I wish you a great conference.